Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and good morning. Thank you for joining the American Spaces on another exciting session of Speak with a Diplomat for the month of April. My name is Grace Lamon, American Center Director, U.S. Embassy, Abuja. And today with us, our guest is Gregory Redmann. So I'll be referring to him, and he has permitted us to refer to him as just Greg. So he'll be speaking on the topic real life lessons from a diplomat working behind the scenes. Welcome, Greg, and thank you for accepting to participate in this signature program. We're excited to have you share with us your personal experiences and adventures around the world and in Nigeria. We appreciate your time and look forward to a dynamic and engaging session. So at this time, I'll ask Stan, Director of American Corner Port Harcourt, to read out Greg's bio. And then I'll turn to our guest for his opening talk, which will be followed by questions from the audience. And I'll be moderating the question and answer session as well. So over to you, Stan.
I think I might have to take the bio.
Just go ahead.
Okay.
Um, Gregory Redmann serves as the Supervisory General Services Officer at US Embassy Abuja, where he oversees transportation, housing, logistics, and procurement operations. A Foreign Service officer since 2014, he began his State Department career as a diplomatic security special agent with extensive experience in Central and Eastern Africa. He has also served in Bogota, Colombia, and Djibouti. Prior to joining the department, Greg worked as a patent attorney specializing in accelerometers and nuclear testing devices. Greg also served in the United States Navy aboard a submarine. Currently, he lives in Abuja with his wife and two children. Can we welcome Greg by clapping?
Over
Thank
to you.
you. Thank you very much for that introduction. Good morning to everybody who is here in attendance. Thank you for coming today. I look forward to chatting with you all. Let me just go ahead and a few more details. So I've been here in Abuja since August of last year, so about 8 months now. And it has been a phenomenal posting so far. Both, myself and my wife and kids really enjoying our time here in Nigeria and in Abuja. It really has been a great place. We found the people that we interact with when we're out in town. It's a very warm, friendly, uh, family-based culture. So it's been a great place to be. We really wanted to come here, and it has lived up to kind of everything we were looking for in an overseas assignment. So yeah, again, I know they mentioned what I do at the embassy. Let's see, the best way to kind of explain it is my job is kind of working in the background. So I am responsible for basically helping keep the embassy running. Kind of an analogy would be my job is making sure the lights stay on, people get where they need to go. The Americans who work here, we provide their housing. Anything the embassy needs to buy or purchase is the work that I do. So it's a lot of behind the scenes type work. We're not really forward facing. We do interact with a lot of Nigerian companies, though, because we'll contract with them for a variety of services or things we need to buy. But it's really kind of what's the we operate in the background just quietly. And if we're doing our job, nobody notices. But if we, if something goes wrong, unfortunately, then it is noticed. But that's just kind of the brief summary of what I do here at work. But whatever you all would like to talk about, I'm happy to chat. I look forward to our time together over the next hour.
Okay, thank you for that introduction, Greg. And I think I'll begin by asking the first question. It looks like you've had quite a number of adventures around the world. One that interests me is you've been aboard a submarine, you know? So I would like to hear more of your experiences, your adventures, the fun you had on such, you know, kind of experience that not so many people actually experience in their lifetime. So, what does it entail being on there, and how do you feel about it? Do you feel enclosed in a bottle?
Sure,
Just to hear more about that. Thank you.
sure. So again, just a little bit about me. When I was growing up in the United States, my father was in the military, so it's pretty common in the United States. If you're a military family, every few years you'll move to a new military base because your parent gets a new assignment. And so I spent my childhood growing up, I think it was 7 or 8 different states in America. And when it came time for me to graduate high school, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do with my life, like a lot of people. So I ended up joining the military, the United States Navy. And I ended up with the job that I was doing within the Navy, ended up being assigned to a nuclear powered submarine out of Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. So it was probably one of the best places I've ever lived, living in a resort town. And like on the submarine, oh, I could tell lots of stories, but I ended up doing, a number of deployments. Most of this was actually preceding the attacks on September 11th. So I was in the military from 1997 to 2003. And yeah, did a few deployments. I mean, just fun, interesting stories, I guess. My longest time underway, meaning the submarine did not surface or I did not see sunlight, was 58 days. So it was a long time. But that being said, you get very used to your routine. So when a submarine goes underway, we actually shift to an 18-hour workday. So you'll have 6 hours where you're doing your job, that you need to do while you're on the submarine, and then you'll have 6 hours of we called it off-going time, but it's where you could do, if you wanted to watch a movie or you wanted to, write letters, because way back then we wrote letters, do those types of things. And then you'd have 6 hours of time to sleep. And then you would just wake up and repeat that 18-hour cycle every single day. But you get very into a rhythm and like, this is what I do. This is what's going to come next. And so it was definitely after that 58 days straight. Like I remember when we pulled into port, it was very jarring, for lack of a better word, that like now all of a sudden, getting outside of this is what I've done for so long with zero external influences or outside interactions. But what's the best way to explain it to? It was an experience. I chose not to stay in and decided to get out. So that maybe speaks to how great of an experience it was. But it has made me the person I am today. But I can't say I would wish it on anybody. Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. I laughed when you said you had to write a lot of letters. So
Yes.
I'm wondering if we have Gen Zs in the audiences, and they'll be wondering, what is he talking about writing letters? So
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I'll turn it to the American Spaces. We have up to about 30 American Spaces joining us this morning. And in case you have any questions, please feel free raise your virtual hand, and then you can ask your questions directly, or you can just type it in the chat and we'll read it out to Greg. So do we have any questions from any of the spaces? Josephine, I'm not able to see the chat, so maybe you could help with that as well. More questions for Greg?
Yes, I'm on it. If anyone comes
Okay.
up, I'll let you know.
Okay. Okay, we have American Corner Calabar with a question. So for all our American spaces, please also remember that this is a non-policy program, so most of your questions should be general questions about personal experiences and all that, with no alignment to policies. So thank you very much. Go ahead, American Corner Color.
Good morning, Greg. Good morning, everyone. I really enjoyed your discussion about your experiences, but one thing that really piqued me was you being used to moving around and all of that. So you've been in a lot of postings across different countries. How is your family taking it? I mean, like, imagine moving little kids and moving around with your wife. Like, how do they how do they feel about changing environment all the time? Since you of course, like, from a military family, you're used to that too. So I mean, like, how your children taking it?
No, excellent question. Excellent question, because a lot of us parents in the foreign service talk about that exact same thing. So kind of the one way I look at it with my children, so my children are 9 and 6, so they're on the younger end. And the first time we moved overseas with them was when I moved to Djibouti in East Africa. For those who don't know, Djibouti is a very small country in East Africa. I think the population of the whole entire country right now is only about 1 million people. So, that is a small part of Abuja, an even smaller part of Lagos, but super small, super tiny country. When we moved there back in 2020, my son was almost 2, and I guess my daughter was about 5, something like that. And I would say definitely with my children, this is the only life they have known, if that makes sense. So their life experience is, hey, every 2 or 3 years we have, we've lived somewhere and then we move, and then, we live there and we move again. So it's been interesting to watch because they know their friends. We have people that will be departing the embassy here in Abuja, this summer, and they just seem to know. They get sad, there's a range of emotions that they go through. But they know, hey, we'll have friends that'll leave, then I will leave. We've had the opportunity, or we've met up with friends in overseas locations, and then back in Washington, D.C., where the State Department is headquartered. And, we get together and they've kind of reconnected with a few friends. Again, almost joking about the letter comment I made earlier. My children now, with iMessaging and WhatsApp and those sorts of things, they'll send messages and videos to friends. So they're able to keep in touch in ways that, are just amazing today. And my wife, my much, much better half, is willing to, willing to do the moves. It's not to say it's not challenging either. Just because there are things, back at home we miss out on. Our parents, like everybody's parents, get older and older, and you get, a little nervous about just not being there. But going back to, I guess, the root of your question, specifically with our kids, that is all they know. And a lot of their friends, because again, they go to international schools, that's just kind of normal, is there's a certain amount of churn, or a certain amount of, people are always kind of coming and going. And so that is just their normal. if that makes sense. And then, if we were to go back to school in America or something like that, where that's not normal, I think it would be, more jarring or probably a little more difficult because, friend groups kind of are formed year after year, and there isn't much change at most schools. But I also, as a parent, right, when we're doing stuff with our children, we were able to justify or come up with reasons as to how what we're doing benefits them. So we like to tell ourselves, hey, the changes and the moves and making new friends, it makes them more adaptable as they get older. Change isn't a big shocker. Because like we have friends back in the United States who have like lived in the same house, have never moved. And so if there is a change, that'll be very jarring, to them and their families. Whereas, with my family, it hopefully will just continue to be change as a part of life, and they'll be able to handle it as it comes up, if that makes sense.
Thank you once again for addressing that question passionately. And we have two questions. I'll put the questions together. One is, we have, what motivated you to pursue a career in diplomacy? And the other says, what are some of the challenges in transiting between your careers so far?
Okay. No, excellent questions. Probably because I couldn't answer that. No, if you had asked me 20 years ago, what are the odds you'll be sitting at the embassy in Abuja, talking with you all, that probably would not have ever been a guess that I would have made. Like I mentioned, I was in the military. When I got out of the military, I went to college where I studied electrical engineering. And then I ended up going to law school. And I was a patent attorney, so I did intellectual property type work. And kind of one thing led to another. And I had been doing it a few years. And all of a sudden, I guess in your 30s, something like that, you realize either you're on this path for the rest of your life, this is what I'm going to do, or you need to pivot. And so in my, let's say early mid 30s, I ended up signing up to take the Foreign Service Officer test to join the State Department. And then coincidentally at the same time, the security folks we have here at embassies are called diplomatic security. They ended up also hiring at the same time. And I made the decision back in 2014 to join diplomatic security first. And it was a phenomenal experience. I got to, kind of go all over the world and support a lot of embassies and missions and do a lot of really interesting, what I feel important work. And then, though, I was married, children started showing up, and my wife was, let me know that she wasn't excited about raising the children at home by herself while I was off traveling the world, for work. So then it became, well, I definitely wanted to stay with the State Department, and continue to serve our country. And so I began looking at other opportunities and becoming a management coned generalist, which is what I do primarily, is the job that kind of spoke to me the most. And so, there was a little process of elimination involved in there too. But that was how I ended up, where I am at today. It is definitely, I don't know that there's a conventional path to the Foreign Service or ending up working at embassies. I mean, there are a lot of people with a lot more varied experiences or paths to get where they are at today. But yeah, if you were to ask my wife or you were to ask my parents, why couldn't you just pick a career and stick with it? Why are you jumping all over the place? I definitely have. But it's been, I enjoy change, doing new, different things. So it has worked out very well for me.
Thank you for that. I like your last statement. You enjoy change. I think change is something that is constant in life, and
Yes.
it's something that we should all embrace as well. We have another question from American Corner Lagos.
Okay.
Says, you do a lot of customer service working as a Supervisory General Services Officer, and they're asking what are some of the key skills required for this kind of job.
Okay. So again, another great question. So again, the work I'm doing here at the embassy is really what I just provide is oversight, making sure that we are adhering to all, U.S. laws, regulations, those types of things. I would say, the Nigerian staff I work with here in Abuja is absolutely top notch and could do the job without me. I mean, they run the GSO and management platforms here at the embassy. It is, as the American in the section, I view it as my responsibility to, when we have to go give bad news or have to go tell my American colleagues that the answer is no, that is my job. But when the answer is yes, and we're helping out, other local Nigerian local staff here at the embassy or other Americans, uh, the machine or the operation kind of runs itself. All that to say, it then becomes my job, or it's a very important skill set to have, is working with our customers who are my colleagues and coworkers, both Nigerian and American, when they come to us and some of my staff say, hey, they're asking us to do this and we can't do it. Okay, well, why can't we do it? And then I'll have a conversation with my staffs to kind of understand what's going on. Then typically what I'll do is go to the requester who needs help or assistance or whatever, and have a long chat with them about, hey, what are you actually looking to accomplish? Or what is it you need to get done? Because maybe there is a way we can get to a yes, I can help you out. And it's not just a no. So I think you've got to be pretty creative. You've got to be problem solver. You've got to, be willing to work with others. At the same time, explaining to most people, hey, unfortunately, we can't do that. Here's why we can't do that. What is it you really want to do? Because maybe we can go about it a different way. So I think, yeah, creativity, problem solving, willingness to communicate. And I mean, to be honest, and this is like life in general, but like, right, being nice and kind. If you are nice and kind, that will go so much further. That will carry you a long, long way. So those are the things I view, as very important. To be successful.
Wow, really very powerful. Very powerful skills, not the kind of skills we hear every day, teamwork, very important,
Yeah.
and all that. So thank you very much for that. We have quite a number of questions here from Enigu, from Lagos, and it's talking about culture at this time. So
Oh.
it says you've been in different places. How did you get to cope with the language, different cultures of people? What are some of the new things that you have learned from people that have helped to shape you and help you succeed as a diplomat?
Oh, man.
Grace,
Yeah.
Grace,
Yes, I can hear
sorry.
you just.
We have someone who wants to ask a question from American Center Lagos. Can he ask?
Okay, maybe after this.
Yeah.
After this.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, no problem. Ooh, okay, so that's a pretty deep question.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would say when I was raised at home, when I was growing up as a kid, my parents, it was very important to them at the time to always, you want to give people the benefit of the doubt. You want to be very open-minded, like, hey, I'll try anything just about once. And that is very important to have, given some of the experiences I've had in the department. And it's it's been a conversation with our children sometimes because kids will be kids, like, hey, we'll try anything just about once. I'm thinking specifically with food, those types of things. Let's try it. We never know what we're going to like, right? And so to me, it's just important that, hey, just because your culture, or your culture background is different than ours, that there's no inherent, there's nothing wrong with that. You were just raised differently. I mean, the same applies with obviously Americans. A lifestyle in California, for example, is going to be very, very different than a lifestyle in Maine. What they eat, how people interact, those types of things. One of the stories I do like to tell or point out to friends back at home who maybe don't have the opportunity to travel as much or be out and about in the world is, people tend to generalize Africa as Africa. And it's like, no, 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 no. Africa is 54 different countries. And an experience in Nigeria is not going to be anything even close to an experience in Djibouti, which is not going to be close to an experience in Morocco or South Africa. Or, don't lump Lagos. I've had the opportunity to go there a few times. Lagos is nothing like Abuja, and, to try and make sure people know and understand that, just like the United States, everywhere you go is very different. And, try things out. There's no harm in doing that. I mean, unless the jollof rice is too spicy for an American, but you need to do those things. I think that makes you a better person and definitely a better diplomat.
Thank you. Josephine, before I get to your question, someone asked in Nigeria, which is your favorite food that you enjoy so much?
So I do like jollof rice. I hear that,
Okay.
I eat it pretty routinely. Yeah. Yes. Now again, being American, maybe not as spicy as some people may enjoy, but yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for that. That was refreshing. Josephine, so let's go to Lagos. Lagos, please, can you ask your question?
Okay. All right. Today. So, Mr. Greg, I want to ask a question. So, seeing that the movement from you transitioning from one job to the other, knowing fully well that these jobs, the functions or the responsibility, the duties, are not the same. Working in the submarine, doing electrical stuff, going to the law school, now doing with what you're doing now, doing logistics, doing and other things. So the transitioning and the job descriptions are not related. So how are you able to move, cope, and while moving? Doing logistics, from logistics, having gone back then in submarines, and all of those things. So I really want to know. Thank you.
Sure. So again, another excellent question. So I would kind of categorize a lot of the work that I have done over my life can be summed up by just be problem solving. All I have done, so when I was on a submarine, I worked on parts of the nuclear reactor. So think what makes the ship move, the ship engine and the ship's power plant. So when I needed to do my job, It was because something was broken or not working, right? So when we're at home and you turn on a light switch and the lights don't come on, you instantly start troubleshooting, right? Do I have power? Is the light bulb burnt out? Like what is the issue? So I had that, that was my first job. Then when you become an attorney, right? The only thing attorneys do, they'll tell you otherwise, but the only thing attorneys are really doing right is solving problems. Attorneys are there to solve a conflict between two different people or a person and the government, right? And so they have a problem, they want a solution, and it's working from that problem to a solution. Again, you take that forward to my time in the State Department and like doing logistics type stuff or working with our colleagues today here at the embassy. Again, all it is problem solving. If I have to get something from the United States to Nigeria, how do we go about doing that? I'll be given parameters, like pricing, how much money I have to spend to do it. What's my timeline? Do I have something that I can take months to get here? Because if I can take months for it to get here, then I don't need to spend a lot of money. But if I need it later this week, then we've got to spend a lot of money to get it here. And how can we do it? So I kind of view a lot of the jobs that I've had as just solving problems. What do I have to work with? Or what is the problem itself? What do I have to work with, right? The things in life when we're solving problems are time and money. I have a finite amount of time, right? Because I can't buy or purchase any more time. And depending on what the situation is, I hate to say it, and we all know it's true. Money can solve nearly every problem. So if we have a lot of money to solve a problem, we can solve nearly everything. I can't get more time. So it's balancing, for the US government, what is the optimal amount of money to spend to solve a problem, and just looking at all of the factors at play. And so again, just going back to your initial question, I would say, even though I have done a few things here and there, it's really just been solving problems at a variety of different levels. Initially, in my life, I was solving, problems immediately in front of me. But as my career has progressed, the problems or things I'm trying to fix have gotten, bigger, more costly, bigger, more costly, those types of problems. More people are involved to make sure that we arrive at the right decision. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that problem solving skills and focus that you actually shared with us. There's still quite a number of questions. And one says, how has living in different parts of the world? I think you responded to that. But the second part is, what has been your most surprising thing about living and working in Nigeria? And then, what will you tell young Nigerians who are aspiring to work internationally? What advice will you give them? So the first one is, what has been the most surprising thing about living and working in Nigeria? And the second one is asking for your advice for young Nigerians who aspire to work internationally. Thank you.
Okay. So the most surprising thing to me since I've been in Nigeria. That's a good question. I don't want to say surprised is an interesting word. I will say, so things that have stood out to me, and I hope this isn't a bad thing. The traffic in Lagos was absolutely insane. Probably, and I hope this is not a bad thing to say out loud. Please cut me off if it is. But when I have
Not a bad
flown,
thing.
okay, it was just mind blowing to me. I've been kind of all over the world and in a lot of other major mega cities. But like Lagos was the definition of like controlled chaos. Like there weren't any accidents, there weren't any, but just the amount of cars and the amount of, humanity trying to get from one location to the other I was glad I wasn't driving. But that was shocking to me, especially just compared to Abuja, because here in Abuja, traffic isn't bad. It's pretty laid back, in my opinion. And so that's been a shocking experience since I've been here. Now let's see. Any advice for any Nigerians who would want to work abroad? I mean, I would say, as an American working abroad, you always want to do the best to represent your country, right? We are constantly reminded that when I go out and interact with Nigerians or in any other country as a citizen of the United States and as a diplomat, this could be the one interaction this other person ever has with an American. So I always try to be, and, remind my kids of this too, that like, you could be the only American that this person meets in their whole entire life, and how you treat them, again, with kindness, empathy, those types of things, can alter them, their family, whoever's perspective of America for the rest of their lives. And so, my advice, for Nigerians would be the same, right? Like when you go out and you go abroad, you want to, represent your country the best that you can, be proud to be Nigerian, let people, know that's where you're from and that's, where your family is. And you want to, make a good positive impact with people in other countries and other cultures, make them interested in Nigeria. Nigeria has a lot to offer, a lot for people to come visit and see. And so I think, making those impressions, positive impressions with people in other countries, other cultures, is, I think, very, very important. Again, if I remember, there are more Nigerians, this is the most populous country in all of Africa, so the odds of other people meeting a Nigerian, are much higher compared to other countries in Africa. So I think, being able to externally represent Nigeria well, I think is very, very important, and let them know, about opportunities and what goes on in Nigeria, those types of things.
Thank you. Again,
Yes, ma'am.
this is another very powerful statement that you have shared with young people in the third year American spaces listening to you. And I'll reiterate it again. He says, represent your country well, treat people with kindness, and always give the best that you can. And that's one of the key things that we tell our US exchange program. Anyone going to the US from Nigeria, we always emphasize be an ambassador for Nigeria, represent your country very well. So thank you very much for hitting on that point as well. Now I'm going to flip it on the other side so that you listen to Nigerians. He said one of the surprising things for him was traffic in Lagos. American Center Lagos, I'm throwing that question to you. What do you have to say about Lagos traffic? Something exciting for Greg to hear, maybe. So over to the audience. Anyone who can tell Greg something interesting about Lagos traffic? I also want to hear because I'm here in Abuja. I'm not familiar with the traffic in Lagos, and I'm sure everyone around the American
Anybody,
space is listening also.
anybody
I can come in. I would
Prof,
like to come in.
okay,
Am I
let's
permitted
hear
to come
you.
in?
Yeah, yes, sure, please, bro.
You see, Lagos is so blessed with traffic because that's the place we can grow ourselves professionally. We can listen to tutorials, we can listen to books, we can watch videos that will enhance ourselves. Currently, we're having a training, and this is one of the things we're emphasizing to them, that look, Lagos has the best place you can learn on the wheel. and that's in the traffic. Thank you.
Very smart. Very smart.
Yes, learning on the
Very
wheel.
smart.
There was a time I heard that there was a wedding in traffic also in Lagos. I don't know how true that is. Because they couldn't get to the venue because of the traffic, and so they
Oh
had to
man.
do the wedding and share the food in traffic. I don't know how true that is anyway, but it's very interesting and funny to hear that. But obviously, they are so used to traffic and they don't even feel it. I'm sure when most people, especially diplomats, are surprised by the traffic, but it is what it is.
It is
Thank you
what
for
it is.
sharing that. Yes. So we'll go to our next question. It says, this is from American Center Lagos. How did your American education help in shaping your worldview and approach to your career?
Uh, Again, another deep, good question. So let's see. So I will assume we'll start that in college. So as I mentioned, I studied electrical engineering, which turns out I didn't want to be an engineer when I finished, because when I went and was interviewing for jobs after college, none of the jobs spoke to me. It really was not work that I was interested in, which is why I ended up pivoting to law school. Truth be told, I probably would have been more intellectually curious or interested in doing maybe something foreign affairs or finance related. But I had done engineering because that was what's the right way to put it? That was the safe choice or decision. You know, I've always been math and science inclined, or reasonably good at it, but I didn't enjoy it. So that was how I ended up doing that. And then law school, you know, again, law school in America is just designed to teach you how to think and problem solve. So, law school in America is 3 years, and it's just basically a series of taking different classes on different types of law, constitutional law, various state law, intellectual property, property itself, accounting, those types of things. And that is just to give you a wide exposure to a variety of topics, but you don't really get too deep into it. As we kind of say, you probably have enough information and knowledge to be dangerous, but you don't know a lot. And so my formal education, again, engineering around the world kind of pigeonholes you, because you don't use what's the right way to put it? You don't write a lot. You don't have to use that creative part of your brain. You are problem solving, which involves a level of creativity. But so all that to say, man, that's tricky to answer in terms of how my education set me up. You know, yeah, I don't know if I have a spot on answer for that, but that's
Yeah, that that says so much from you. Thank you for that. Um, hmm. So I'm going to also ask. I'm going to ask how many states you've traveled to around Nigeria, and I'm going to flip it the other way. Maybe let's take from Bauchi, from Kano, to kind of tell you a little about those places and why you should visit those places. So Bauchi, Kano, any other states,
oof.
if you're ready to tell Greg about why he should go to those places, please let's hear from you. I just want him to have a little perspective on the whole of Nigeria. He has been to Lagos, so we won't go to Lagos. He already knows much about Lagos, so maybe other states will also be helpful while he answers this particular question. So this is about your schedule, and it made reference to how you were able to overcome your personal daily schedule within 6 hours. I think it has to do with referencing your work aboard the submarine. So it says, how were you able to actually work within those hours? How were you able to share your hours and achieve what you were able to achieve?
Okay. So on most U.S. Navy ships, and I'm sure the same applies to any sailors serving, in the Nigerian Navy on board ships, what you do when you go underway is you will have a specific job. Like easy examples would be, somebody is going to be steering the ship or driving the ship, as they say, making sure it is heading on whatever direction the captain tells us to go on. And so for that 6 hour period, that is what they do. You'll have people come in to like give you, short breaks, go to the bathroom, things like that. But for that 6 hour period, that is your responsibility. So my job on the ship was to kind of monitor the electrical power plant, to make sure that there was electricity being provided to all parts of the submarine, and that, we didn't have any problems with any of the generators that were on board, because every hour I'd have to go look at, oil levels and fuel levels and the temperature of certain bearings, those types of things, to make sure the equipment was all operating the way it should be. So you'd spend your time, that 6 hour period of being on watch, doing that. And so every ship, I'll probably go ahead and say every ship around the world who's operating a Navy, that is kind of what you do while you're underway. And it's pretty, again, very routine. I know I have to do this while I am responsible for this every hour. I need to walk around and log, these various measurements, and do that kind of work. And so, yeah, does that answer? I think that answers the question.
Yes, that answers
Okay.
the question. Thank you very much.
Okay.
While you catch your breath, I'll turn it over to Bauchi. Are you there?
Okay.
We've had quite a lot from Greg, so we just want to tell him a little about about Nigeria, and maybe motivate him, encourage him also to look at other places around Nigeria. Very exciting places. Bauchi, are you ready? Bauchi, Kano, or any other state? Calabar, Oshun, wherever. Do we have them online? Okay. If we don't have any, I don't want to go to Lagos again. Okay, so we have Calabar. We have Uyo. Okay, let's hear from you, Calabar. Briefly, just 2 minutes, please, as we round up.
Good morning. Good morning, diplomats. It's actually an insightful session, actually. So my question is to the diplomats: what's the advice to a Nigerian, depending on the demographics you find yourself? What's the mindset to a young person that can aspire to become a diplomat representing Nigeria, taking in consideration of our demographics, our socioeconomic factor, and the limitations in Africa as a whole? Thank you.
Okay, even though you were supposed to tell him more about you, but he has answered the related question. But let me take from Uyo. If he wants to again answer your question, then he can take that. Uyo.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Please, my question is to the diplomats. I thought that taking a course or a career in history and international relations is what will give you the opportunity to work as a diplomat. But for him, he said he had a career in electrical engineering before he now did law. So I want to know how he was able to switch as someone who has been science inclined for a very long time, he's good in math and all those stuff. I was able to switch from engineering to law and was able to cope up and then be able to, work as a diplomat. Because, like he said, his interests, despite the fact that he knows mathematics and science inclined, he has interest in international stuff. So I want to know how he was able to do it because myself, I'm studying engineering. So I want to know how he was able to cope. So
Okay, thank you. Over to you, Greg. I think this will be the
Sure.
last question.
Okay, no problem. So, obviously, I can't speak to how the government of Nigeria hires or, picks people for the service in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But in the United States, our system is set up that any American can apply. We have to go take a standardized test called the Foreign Service Officer test. And based on how well you score on that exam, and that exam is I think it's like 8 or 10 subjects, American history, mathematics, English grammar. There's a writing portion that you have to write. There's some deductive reasoning questions. But however you score on that test then allows you to proceed in the hiring process. There's no educational requirements like that you have to have a degree in international relations or foreign affairs or anything like that. There's not even a requirement that you have to have a college degree. You only have to have a high school diploma to become a diplomat in America. So my degree background is a little abnormal. I haven't run into many other engineers, but there are a lot of attorneys, or as we call ourselves, former or recovering attorneys that work for the department. So that's pretty common. But the thought with the Foreign Service or the Department of State in the United States is we will take anybody who is able to make it through the hiring process, and the department, our MFA, will teach you and give you all of the skills you need to have to be a successful diplomat. So that, and if I can be honest with you, I've fooled a lot of people with how smart I am, so they just keep pushing me forward. So
You are actually very smart. I will turn to Prof. Prof, I think is I don't know if you want to comment a little about the hiring in Nigeria. Also, I think is similar to the foreign service in the US as well.
I think I will defer to you on this.
Okay. The hiring process is also similar to what he has actually said. You necessarily don't have to read international relations and diplomacy because there are various aspects that you could work on internationally as well. So just do your best. And like we also recruit in the civil service, you have to go through application, write exams as well for you to be posted to different places to work. So at this point, I think we have come to the end of this program. First, I want to really thank Greg for his time with us. Really exciting session. We learned a lot. We I can say that this session gave us more idea about who you really are. You talked about your career, you talked about family. We can see you're a family oriented person from all you've said in developing your career. You have considered your family as well. You have also talked about some of the skills that you have built, and you have given us a wide range of ideas, creativity to explore, so that we're not just one-sided in whatever we do. So you've given us a kind of a world perspective about so many things this morning, and we appreciate you for that. We appreciate the time you've spent with us also. And thanks to our audiences, 30 American spaces across Nigeria, for turning up, for asking very important and great questions. And we hope you've also learned a lot on what he has talked about, both personally and then in the development of your career. So I want to thank my colleagues in Lagos, Josephine, who is our American Spaces Program Officer. Thank you very much for your time. Eyutayo, who is our country specialist also. We thank you for your time with us. So at this point, Greg, once again, have a lovely day. Have a good weekend. And we hope that some other time we'll find you also to talk about, as a facilitator, to talk about some of the things you have built as you journey through your career. So we really
No, thank
appreciate
you
your
all. Thank you all for having me. I really appreciate it. Best of luck to you all. And thank you so much for being so welcoming, in general, to myself, all the other Americans and our families here in Nigeria.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.